ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामने गौरतिष्वे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Again, welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad Gita. So we have been, for past few weeks, so we have been covering through the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So in the first session, we saw the importance of Bhagavad Gita, and then we saw that how Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literature, and specifically Vedas are a privilege for human society. And then in the second session, we saw that the importance of human life. Human life is not just meant for eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. We have to rise above the struggle for this eating, mating, sleeping, defending. And, we have to use our faculty of discrimination to discriminate between right and wrong, good and bad, happiness and suffering. And we should rise above the struggle, and we should seek the higher meaning of life, the higher purpose of life. The purpose of human life is not, as I said, not just to eat, mate, sleep, and defend. It is to, rise above the struggle and ask this question. One second. Somebody's rise above the struggle and, solve the real problems of life. For any problem to be real problem, it has to meet three criteria. We saw that a problem to be real, it has to meet three criteria. What are they? It has to be common to all. No one wants them and nobody can avoid them. Any other problems, we are not saying that they are all not problems. They are problems, but they're temporary problems. They are not real problems. Real problems mean it has to be common to all. No one wants it and nobody can avoid it. We saw that, in Krishna Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter mentions that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. He is mentioning that birth, death, old age, and disease, these are the real problems which cause suffering in this world. These are the real problems which causes suffering in the world. One who understands this, he is situated in real knowledge. On top of this 3-4 problems, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease, we also go through this three types of misery: Adhyatmika klesha, Adi Bhaudika klesha, Adi Devika klesha. No one has to, ask this question: why am I going through? Adhyatmika klesha means misery is caused by one's body and mind. Adi Bhaudika klesha means misery is caused by other living entities. And then Adi Devika klesha means misery is caused by natural calamities. So one is constantly going through these three types of miseries. One should ask this question: why am I suffering? I am not actually looking for problems in this world. I am looking only for happiness. Who is looking for happiness in this world? Everyone, right? No one wants misery. No one is saying that, oh, I have too much happiness. Let me go to the supermarket and buy 2 kilos of misery. Everybody is seeking for happiness, but it's like buy one, get one free. Along with seeking for happiness, what comes? Misery. We should ask the question, why? If you do not ask this question, why, we are not utilizing the human form of life, right? We saw that aghara nadra bhayam aitanam cha samanya metat pashubir narana dharme gitesham adhige vishesho dharme gihina pashubir shamana. Aghara nadra bhayam aitanam, eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. These are the four things common to animals and humans. The one which differentiates human beings from other animals is ability to inquire dharma. What is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is happiness, what is suffering. If you do not use that faculty, then we are nothing but two-legged, sophisticated animals. That's the verdict of the scripture. So human life, we should make this inquiry. Who am I? Why am I suffering? Why this creation exists? Who is God? Does God really exist? If God exists, he should be all compassionate. If God is an all compassionate person, then why suffering exists in this world? So in the next session, we saw that, who is God? Does God exist? And if he exists, who is he? According to Bhagavad Gita, we saw that, God. Bhagavad Gita deals with these 5 topics of knowledge, right? First topic is Ishvara, science of God. Second topic is Jiva, that is knowledge of the soul, Atma Jnana. And then third topic we saw is Karma, right? And then we saw the fourth and fifth topic, Prakriti and Kala. Last week we saw the Prakriti, the material nature, the material world. So in the middle of this topic, material nature and time, so we stopped in, in the material nature, right? We saw that in this material world, everything is made up of these 3 modes, So Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. Sattva Guna means mode of goodness, Rajo Guna means mode of passion, and then Tamo Guna means mode of ignorance. How in this world there are 3 primary colors, right? Red, yellow, and blue. If you take these 3, red, yellow, blue, if you mix it up with the different proportions, we get millions and millions of varieties of colors. Similarly, right, everything in this material world is made up of these 3 modes: mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and mode of goodness. If we combine this mode, we get varieties of things in this world. The varieties of bodies we have, the varieties of, anything, clothes, food, time, everything can be classified into 3 modes. And then we saw that also this guna modes, guna also means the word rope, right? So the rope, mode of goodness is compared to, golden rope, mode of passion is compared to silver rope, and mode of ignorance is compared to iron rope. But all 3 of them, they are simply ropes, whether it's gold or silver or iron. As long as we are bound by that, right, it doesn't make a difference what kind of a rope it is, right? We are all still bound in this world. We saw that how these 3 modes binds us into this material world. So the next topic is characteristics of 3 modes. That's where we stopped. We are supposed to continue on the characteristics of 3 modes. And then we will see how Krishna is beyond the 3 modes. And then, as Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, what is real freedom? And then we are going to look into time factor and then the divisions of time. So now we are going to see the characteristics of the three mode. We saw that, last week, that how even the animals, time, place, food, object of worship, everything can be classified into three modes. The essential characteristic of three modes can be summarized like in this table. You see in the screen, I have this a table which describes the Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. The general characteristics of Sattva Guna is it is purity and it leads to happiness and knowledge. The general characteristics of Tamo Guna is that it produces unlimited desires, and then it pushes into work really hard so that we can enjoy in this world, and then for the worldly pleasures of this world, and greed. These are the general characteristics of the Rajoguna. And Tamoguna is foolishness, sleepy, laziness, intoxication, ignorance, uncleanliness. These are all the general characteristics of Tamoguna. That leads, because of that, right, the Sattvaguna's general characteristics will lead us to freedom from sinful reaction. Because once we are situated in knowledge, what to do, what not to do, once we are situated in the pure consciousness of life, purity, we are seeking for happiness, we will not engage in sinful activities, hence we will not get sinful reactions. But when somebody is induced by the mode of Rajoguna, mode of passion, right, the unlimited desires it produces, it pushes work hard, and because of greed and because of the worldly pleasures, we will, get entangled in this material world, bondage to material activities. And because of that, all the material activities ultimately leads to suffering. We experience misery. Now, Tamoguna leads to madness and foolishness. And then because of this results, right, Sattva-guna will, the next best will most likely will lead us to heavenly planets. And then Rajaguna will lead us to take birth in this earth planet. And then Tamoguna will lead us to take birth in the hellish planets, and then go into lower species of life, animal kingdom and plants and other things. So these are the general characteristics of the three modes. So in this material world, as we saw, that everything is bound by these three modes. Nothing is pure, everything is always some tinge of these three modes is there, right? So the next we are going to see that in this material world, why first of all God created this material world. If God is an all compassionate, all knowing, all powerful personality, why would he create this material world which has this birth, death, old age and disease? Why would create this material world which has this Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhaudika Klesha and Adi Daivika Klesha? So to answer that question, first we are going to define what is Dharma. So Dharma means, right, the intrinsic, inseparable characteristic of something, or that which is a constant companion of something is called Dharma. Dharma means the intrinsic, inseparable characteristic of something, or that which is a constant companion. That's the meaning of Dharma.
Thing that happens.
Dharma has many meanings.
I'm talking be like
words, right, has many meanings based on the context. One particular word can mean many meanings. In this case, Dharma, sometimes it means duty, sometimes it means, religiousness, sometimes it means righteousness. It can mean many meanings. But in general, right, the specific meaning of the word Dharma, right, is the intrinsic, inseparable characteristic of something. To understand this word Dharma, let's see some examples. So we know water, water in its natural state, it exists in the liquid form. So the inseparable characteristics of water is liquidity. So hence, the dharma of water is liquidity. In normal existence, in normal condition, water exists in liquid form. If you heat it, it will become vapor and steam. It is not anymore water. If you cool it, it will become ice. It's not anymore water. Water means, the intrinsic inseparable characteristic of water means liquidity. So hence, the dharma of water is to be liquid, or liquidity is the dharma of water. So sugar, right? What is the intrinsic inseparable characteristics of sugar? Sugar, sweetness. So hence, sweetness is the inseparable intrinsic characteristics of sugar. Hence, sweetness is the dharma of sugar, right? So now what is the intrinsic inseparable characteristic, or that which is a constant companion of fire, right? The intrinsic inseparable characteristics of fire is to give light and heat. Hence, right, the dharma of fire is to give light and heat, right? Now we can understand the word dharma. What does it mean? The intrinsic inseparable characteristics of something. Now, what is the dharma of the soul? What is the intrinsic inseparable characteristic of the soul, right? The intrinsic inseparable characteristics of all living being is to serve, right? Everyone in this world is always serving somebody else. There is no exception, right? The shopkeeper is serving their customers, right? The mother or the parents are serving the children, right? The president is serving the country, right? If nothing is there, somebody has a pet like a dog or a cat, and they keep serving the dogs and cats. So always somebody is serving something. Even to fulfill our desires, we think that we are serving ourselves. Actually, we are serving our mind and body. You know, we are always have to serve something. That is the intrinsic inseparable characteristic of every living entity. By doing that, what we experience happiness. You know, dharma of every soul is to serve God with love and devotion, right? Right? Every soul is an individual and has independence. Independence for what? To serve God with love and devotion, right? We all have the independence, free will, right? To serve God with love and devotion, right? Without free will, right, there is no love, right? What is free will? The choice of ability to love or not to love. If there is only choice of love, then it is not free will. It is, it is slavery or it's compulsion. If we say I love somebody, there is a choice of not loving, then only it is called love. The free will has to be there to love or not to love somebody. Then only it can be called as love, right? So originally we all existed in the spiritual world. In that loving relationship with God, we are all serving God with loving and relation, with that love and affection, love and devotion. As I said, love means the choice of not love has to be there. So the free will to not to love God is there always. If nobody is exercising this free will to not to love God, then what is the point of having that free will? So hence some living entities, some living entities exercised the free will of not to love God and become independent of Him, right? And those living entities, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, right? The 16th verse. Vav imau purusho loke sharakshara evacha shara sarvani bhutani kutasto shara uchyate. It is mentioned that there are two classes of being, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible, right? In the spiritual world, the living entities as I said, exist in that loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. They have been serving the Lord with love and devotion. As I said, love means the choice of not loving exists. Some living entities which exercise the free will to not to love God and enjoy independent of God, they come into this material world. Because we cannot exist in the spiritual world with the mentality to enjoy independent of God and not to serve God. Why? Because we will cause disharmony to all others. Because in the spiritual world, everything is existing in harmony with God, to love Him and to serve Him. And this happens not out of compulsion, out of free will. The choice of not to love God is existing, and some living entities, when they choose, they cannot exist anymore in the spiritual world, because if they exist, it will create disharmony, it will create commotion in the spiritual world. Hence, God created this material world, and the living entities which are all rebellious to God and who wanted to enjoy independent of God, they all have been sent into this material world. Right? That's why it is mentioned that, right, the souls who misuse those independence, they fall into this material world. Falling into this material world means trying to exercise that free will to be independent of God, to enjoy independent of God. This concept of falling down into this material world exists in all religion, right? Even in Christianity, it is there, right? When Adam and Eve, right, when they disobeyed the words of God not to eat the forbidden fruit, right? Once they tasted the forbidden fruit, right, immediately they experienced, male, female difference, happiness and suffering, right? Immediately they fell down into the material consciousness. So the Vedic literature specifically tells that originally the spirit soul belongs to spiritual world, because the spirit soul is made up of Sat, Chit, Ananda. The spiritual world is made up of Sat, Chit, Ananda. So hence, when the spiritual world, when the living entities are existing, it's a compatible situation. Whereas the material world is Asat, Achit, Nirananda. It is temporary. It's like not conscious, and it's full of suffering, ignorance. Whereas the spiritual world is, eternity, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So the soul, which is full of knowledge, full of eternity, full of bliss, when it comes into this material world, which is Asat, Achit, Nirananda, it experiences this duality, happiness and suffering, good and bad, right and wrong, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, fame and infamy, like that, right? This material world, as I said, it is like a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, right? Spiritual world is like the real thing. Material world is a reflection of the real thing. When you are walking along the bank of a river or a bank of a lake, right? You can see that on the bank of the river or lake, there is a tree. And then the same tree is existing in water as a reflection, right? It is a perverted reflection. So in the spiritual world, the real happiness, the real relationships exist in the spiritual world. In the material world, everything is nothing but a perverted reflection, right? The real happiness exists in the spiritual world. In the material world, the reflection of the real happiness only exists. It is like this. When we are walking along the river, right, we see this nice mango tree. In the mango tree, we see nice, ripened, sweet mangoes. Then immediately after seeing the mango, I jump into the water and then search for mangoes, the sweet mangoes in the water. Will I be able to find out mangoes in the water? No. What exists in the water is the reflection of the mango tree, the reflection of the mango. So similarly, in this material world, there is no real happiness, only in the spiritual world. What seemingly exists in this material world is the perverted reflection of the original happiness. If I really wanted to have the fruit, right, and I jump into the water and search, I could not find the fruit, the mango in the water. When I come up, right, I see that like me, many other people are searching fruit in the water. That means I'm kind of convinced that fruit exists. I go and search. There is no fruit. I get frustrated. When I come up above the water, then I see on the bank somebody put a table, and then they have lot of books. How to find mangoes in the water. Then we are convinced that mango exists in the water when we keep searching and searching and searching. Will I be able to be able to find out the water, mango in the water? No. So the seeking happiness in this material world is like this, right? Like we are searching for happiness, which does not exist in the material world, which exists only in the spiritual world. We experience only misery. But when we see others are also seeking for happiness in this material world, we develop this hope that somehow that we can find happiness in this material world. Then on along the path, along people, some like some philosophers and self-help gurus and all these people, they come and give various philosophies and various self-help formulas, 100 sure ways to find mangoes in water, 101 ways to find happiness in this material world, like that. Then we are kind of convinced that happiness exists in this material world. It does not. That is the verdict of Bhagavad Gita. The real happiness exists in the spiritual world. That's our real home, right? If you see in this picture, right, we are all existing in the material universe, right? The material world, material creation consists of many universes. We saw that last week that there is one universe. So the material creation, right? The root cause of the material creation comes from Karana Daksai Vishnu. If you see, right, in this middle, right, there's Karana ocean. In the one part of the spiritual, the entire creation, if you consider it to be four parts, 3/4 is the spiritual world. 1/4 is the material world. One corner of the spiritual sky, the Brahma Jyoti, is covered by this material cloud. In that material cloud, right, is there Karana ocean. That Karana ocean lies down to Karana Daksai Vishnu or Mahavishnu. When he inhales and exhales, millions of universes comes out of his pores of the body, right? In this picture, if we see, one of this universe is depicted. This one universe, that Karana Daksai Vishnu enters into each one of the universe as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. Garbhodakasai is the one who lies on Ananta Shesha. From his navel comes a lotus flower. From the lotus flower is born Brahma. And then the stem of the lotus flower is the 14 planetary systems situated, right? We saw that last week, right? The 7 upper planetary system and 7 lower planetary system, right? Bhuloka, Bhovarloka, Swargaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Magaraloka, and Brahmaloka. And then below that, right? Atala, Vitala, right? Sutala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala, right? Talatala. These are all 7 lower planetary systems. And below that is hellish planets, So this is the structure of the universe. This material universe, which is one among many. It's like the bag of mustard seeds. How many mustard seeds are there in a big bag? It's like unlimited. Like that, our universe is like one mustard seed among many universes in this world. And each one of the universe we saw that is maintained by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are in charge of creation, sustenance, and destruction. We saw all these things last week. I just put this picture for us to understand. As I said, we were originally existing in the spiritual world, Vaikunta. Vaikunta means, Kunta means anxiety. Vaikunta means no anxiety or free of misery. That is the spiritual world. That's where originally we belonged, right? Because of the desire to enjoy independent of God, we all had fallen into this material world, Kunta, full of misery, right? That's where we are existing, right? If you see, right, spiritual world is full of happiness, material world is full of misery, right? Here you can see the elaboration of one particular universe. As explained, half of this universe, Brahmanda, is filled with Garbha water, Garbhodakasa ocean, and that ocean is lying down Garbhodakasai Vishnu. From his navel comes a lotus flower. In that lotus flower is born Brahmaji. He is the topmost living being in our universe. He is the first living being, right? And then below Brahmaloka or Satyaloka is like Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharaloka, Swargaloka, Bhavarloka, and then Bhuloka. These are the upper 7 planetary systems. The lower planetary systems are Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. These are the lower 7 planetary systems. Below them are the hellish planets, where the planets for suffering. When somebody commits sin, and then when they, after end of life, they are sent to the hellish planets for the punishment. Below those 7 planetary system is the hellish planets. As I mentioned, right, this one universe is one among many. We come into this universe because of our desire to enjoy independent of God. Right, as I said, the total creation is considered to be four parts. The material creation is 1/4 of the creation, right? It's one small portion. One small portion, 1/4 of the total creation is this material world. Right? It consists of millions of universes, and one of those universes, our universe, which is the smallest. And then this material nature is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Dukkham means misery. Alaya means place. Dukkhalaya means it's a place of misery. Ashashvata means it's temporary. That's what Krishna gives this label for this material world. Dukkhalaya Ashashvatam. Whereas the spiritual world is Vaikunta. Vaikunta means no misery. Right? Then, as I said, why the question comes, why did the Lord create this material world, Prakriti? Why did he create? Why did he create this world with dukkha, right, and temporariness? Dukkhalayam and Ashashvatam. Why did he create? Right? So, to understand that, right, let's consider the example, right? If one has to, if you are planning to design a city, or if you are a planner of a city, what and all facilities you might have in that particular city. If you want to have a complete city planned, what and all different facilities you will have? Anybody has any thoughts? If you are designing a city, what and all facilities you will consider to have in the city? You can unmute and answer the question if you want to participate. I want to try to make it a little interactive. If you are planning a city, what facilities you would like to have in the city? Right.
So buildings, the
Buildings.
system, water supply system,
Buildings for businesses, transportation. Very good. What else?
sewage systems, water,
Sewage system. Excellent. Yeah. What else?
water supply,
Water supply. Great.
education,
Resources. What else?
education.
Yeah, educational institution for people to get educated, right? We would like to have education. What else?
Caring for people.
Yeah, caring for people, right? Hospitals and wellness institutes, right?
Right.
What else?
Entertainment.
Entertainments, yes, like, right? We might have parks and recreation, movie theaters, shopping malls.
Temples and prayers, religion.
Yes, for place of worship, temples, to offer prayers, temples. What else?
Water source.
Water, yeah, somebody already mentioned before, water, right? A different department to manage the resources for the city, right? Water department, and then different department to maintain, right? Energy department, electricity department, all those energy resources, right? Different departments to maintain energy resource, natural resources. And then, right, residential quarters, business quarters,
temples, churches,
churches, place of worship, hospitals, educational institutions, recreational parks, movie theaters, shopping malls. What else you might look in a city?
Things for nourishment like farming, growing food.
Okay, wow, yes, great, right? To grow food, farming area, right? We need to have food supply, right? We need farms and all these plants and trees, right? We need to have. Yes, these are all very important, right? We need to have residential areas, business areas, right? Hospitals, right? As I said, education institutions, for recreation, sports grounds and parks, right? Movie theaters, right? Shopping malls. So here, see parks, right? Transportation systems, a good transportation system like road transports, right? Rail transport, or even aeroplanes, aerodrams, right? Place of worship, temples and churches and mosques and synagogues. What else you will have in the city? You see the screen? No, law enforcement department. A police department has to be there, right? To enforce law. And then people who do not follow the law, they need to be sent out from the mainstream society to where? Correction houses, jails, right? If you are a planner of the city who have to plan all kind of facilities, you will be also certain portion of the city you will be having these jail houses or correction houses. Why? We know that even though we are creating the city for everybody to be happy, invariably some people will break the law. And when those people break the law, if you keep them in the mainstream society, it will cause disharmony. It will cause disturbance, social disturbance. For the well-being of all the law-abiding citizens, the people who are breaking the law, they need to be isolated from the mainstream society. They need to be put in a correction place. And what is the purpose of this jail? One is to isolate the people who are breaking the law. Second is to give an opportunity for them to reform or correct themselves. That is the purpose of a jailhouse, right? It's a purpose of the jail is to correct oneself, right? What is the need for a prison? As I said, one is to isolate the people who are breaking the law from people who are following the law so that they don't cause disharmony to the mainstream society. Second, it's a correction place, right? It's a chance given to that person to make him to realize the mistake he committed, that so that he can correct himself and then live in the society in harmony with others, right? It's a correction place. Correction place means a jail means there got to be two essential things jail has to offer. What are they? It has to offer pain and punishment. There has to be some amount of pain compared to the free world. Compared to the free world, there has to be some amount of pain has to be there. Otherwise, you will not realize the mistake you made. And there has to be some punishment so that you don't make this mistake again in future, right? Jailhouse or correction house means it has to offer these two things, pain and punishment. And that's what this material world is offering. This material world is like a jailhouse. It's like a prison without the wall. It is a correction place. The living entities which rebelled against God, who wanted to enjoy independent of God, they all have been given this opportunity to try to enjoy independently, but invariably we will fail, right? Also, this material world offers this pain and punishment so that we can realize the mistake we made, right? Pain comes in this form of birth, death, old age, and disease, right? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. These are the things, 4 things causes pain for us in this jailhouse. Right? The punishment is coming through Adhyatmika Klesha, miseries caused by our own body and mind. Adi Bhaudika Klesha, miseries caused by other living entities like insects and mosquitoes and bugs and viruses and in-laws and teachers and students and parents and children. Always somebody is causing some type of misery to others. Right? And then third is miseries caused by natural calamities. Right? Earthquake, tsunami, forest fire, extreme heat, extreme cold, right? Like that. These 3 types of things are the one which offers punishment. And who gives punishment in the jail? The jailer, right? The jailer is the one who has that whip in his hand or the stick in his hand, and then whoever doesn't follow the law properly, right? He gives that punishment. So in this material world, who gives that punishment? This material world, as I said, Durga. Material world is called Durg. Durg means fortress. It is very difficult to get in and get out. Right? Very difficult to get out. Prison house is also called Durg. Right? The fort is also called Durg. The one who guards the Durg, the superintendent of this Durg, is called Durga. Right? Durga Devi is the superintendent of this material world. As I said, the jailer will have this whip. Similarly, Durga Devi has her trident. Her trident, the 3 points of the Durga Devi's trident, right, gives, right, these 3 types of miseries. Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhaudika Klesha, and Adi Devika Klesha. These Trishul, 3 points in the Trishul of Durga Devi represents these 3 types of misery, 3 types of Klesha, Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhaudika Klesha, and Adi Devika Klesha. Right? Right? Originally, we were all in the spiritual world. We have been coming from the spiritual world where full of enjoyment, full of happiness, full of relationships were there. Right? We come from the spiritual world to the material world. Right? What is our crime? Why we are sent from the spiritual world to the material world? As I said, we wanted to enjoy independent of God. Right? We wanted to enjoy independent of God. That is the reason why we came into this material world. When we go to the prison, the first thing done to the prisoner is to give uniform, right? Similarly, when we come into this material world, we all have been given the uniform. What is that? The material body, right? So depending on the crime committed, there are different prison, there will be different classes, A class cell, B class cell, and C class cell. Depending on which crime, which type of crime somebody committed, right? The uniform will be different. Based on the uniform, one can understand this guy belongs to A class cell, B class cell, or C class cell. Similarly, right, in this material world, there are 84 lakh uniforms exist, depending on the type of, crime or the level of crime one commits, right? Originally, we all exist in the spiritual world. We came into this material world. When we come into this material world, one of these 84 lakhs uniforms have been given to us, right? Right? As I said, these various bodies are all the uniform for in the prison house, right? As I said, Jalajana Lakshani, there are 9 lakh species of aquatics, Stavara Laksha Vimshati, 20 lakh species of trees, Krimayo Rudra Sankhyaga, 11 lakh species of insects and reptiles, and then 10 lakh species of birds, Pakshinam Dasha Lakshanam, and then Trimsha Lakshani Pashavaka, right? 30 lakh species of 4-legged animals, and then Chatur Lakshani Manavaha, 4 lakh species of humans, right? These are the 84 lakhs of uniforms given to the living entity when it comes to the material world. Also, to restrict the movement, right? If somebody is causing more trouble, even within the prison, right? That person will be restricted with shackles, right? If somebody is a, very dangerous criminal, right? If he is going to be even harmful to other inmates in the jail, he has to be restricted with some, that person will be shackled with chain, right? Similarly, in this material world, we are all bound up by the chain, the ropes. We saw that the 3 ropes, 3 guna, right? Mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and mode of goodness. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. Right? So we are all bound by these three modes. Right? We are all puppeteers in these three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Right? Sattva guna, as I said, represents the purity, knowledge, and freedom from sin. Rajoguna represents unlimited desires, obsessed with lust, right? And then Tamoguna represents mode of ignorance, intoxication, laziness, and sleep and delusion, right? These are the things, right? We see from the Ramayana, even within one family, right? Three different people are with three different modes, right? Vibhishana, the brother of Ravana, is in mode of goodness, right? Ravana is the personification of mode of passion, unlimited lust. And then Kumbhakarna represents the mode of ignorance, Tamoguna, right? Even within one family, we can see people coming with different modes, exhibiting different modes. What to speak of three different personalities? In Kali Yuga, even the same person can exhibit, all the three modes, depending on the time, place, and circumstance. Right? The three modes are like if you have a mixed vegetable soup, right? When you are mixing up the vegetable soup and then taking a ladle of soup and putting in a bowl, what type of vegetables will come? Different varieties will come. Similarly, sometimes mode of goodness is dominating, sometimes mode of passion is dominating, sometimes mode of ignorance is dominating. The three modes, right? As I said, the material world have been given a place of correction. As long as we follow law, right, we are given freedom. When our freedom is misused, right, when we break the law, our freedom is restricted. But even though we might have certain amount of freedom in this material world, ultimately we are all not free. We are all controlled by the three modes. The real freedom exists in the spiritual world, right? Then we can understand that we are, as we said, all beings in this material world, all human beings, every one of us is bound by these three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. But from Bhagavad Gita, we can understand Krishna is beyond the three modes, right? Being the master of the three modes, Krishna says, right? Krishna is forever transcendental to them. He is not controlled by the three modes because he is the master of the three modes. Master never comes under the control of his servant, right? He can never come under the influence of the three modes. Only those who are themselves under the influence of the three modes think that Krishna is under the influence of three modes. Krishna explains that in the 7th chapter, 13th verse. Tribir Gunamair Bhavair, Ebi Sarvam Vidam Jagat, Mohitam Nabi Janati, Mamyabya Paramavyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, right? Who am above the modes and inexhaustible, right? Maya Dakshena Prakriti, Soyede Sacharacharam, Ketu Nanena Kaunteya, Jagat Vipari Vartate. Right? What does it mean? This material world, which is one of my energies, working under my direction, right? O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rules, this manifestation created and annihilated again and again. So Krishna is the controller of the three modes. Under this direction, the three modes are manifesting this material world, right? And Krishna is not under the influence of the three modes. He is independent, right? Now, Krishna tells what is real freedom. Real freedom means real freedom is to transcend the three modes. One should get free from the three modes. One should break the bondage from the three ropes. That's the real freedom. That's called moksha. This is practically impossible to do, right? Because the modes are very powerful and insurmountable. However strong a person might be, he cannot overcome the three modes. It's very difficult. But Krishna gives a way out in Bhagavad Gita. In the 7th chapter, 14th verse, Krishna says, Daivi yesha gunamayi, mamamaya duratyaya, mamyevaye prapatyante, maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome, right? But those who surrender unto me can easily grasp beyond it. The 7th chapter, 14th verse, Krishna says, this is the formula he gives. how one can come out of this material world, right? Now, the next topic, we saw that Prakriti, we saw karma, we saw Prakriti, the material world. The material world is existing. Why? Because it is the place, it's the correction place, it is the chance given for the rebellious living entities, right? Who are all, rebelled against God. They have been sent into this material world, try to enjoy independent of God. In this pursuit of enjoying independent of God, we all miserably fail and we experience misery. And that misery will help us to learn the pain and punishment existing in this material world should make us to realize that we don't belong to this material world, we belong to the spiritual world. This is not our real home, right? So how this material world is functioning? The material world is functioning because of material, as I said, matter is inert, it's dull, nothing moves in the material world. Material world, everything moves with the help of time, right? The time manifests as past, present, and future. Time makes everything animate in this world, right? Material world is like a still picture. For the still picture to make an animation or a movie, that has to be put in a wheel and rotated, right? The Kala Chakra is the one which animates the material world. Otherwise, the material world is nothing but like a still picture, inert things, doesn't move, doesn't manifest, doesn't animate, right? The time factor, Kala Chakra, is the one makes everything animate. And as I said, time factor is the ultimate executioner of all, right? Right? No one can surpass the power of time, right? Time, destroys everything. Time is the ultimate executioner, right? This time, as I said, it is cyclical, right? How we have 4 seasons, right, in a year: the summer season, the winter season, the spring season, and then the 4 seasons, right? Summer, winter, fall, and then spring, right? Like that, in the greater cosmic cycle, right? The universe also goes through these 4 ages, 4 time periods: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. They are all cyclical, right? So this time factor is the one makes everything, right, go through the transformation of the matter. All material things in this world goes through this 6 transformation, right? It takes birth, right? And then it grows, and then it stays for some time, and then it produces some offsprings, then it dwindles down, and then it goes through death. This 6 transformation is made possible by the time factor, right? And this time factor is the ultimate gambler, right? When we gamble, we might win something, we might lose something. But when we gamble with the expert gambler, eventually we will lose everything, right? Similarly, whatever the plans we make in this world, try to be happy on our work, on our effort. Ultimately, everything is taken away, right? Time factor ultimately takes everything away in the form of death, right? Time, as I said, it is also one of the energies of the Lord, right? The Lord has many energies, right? Material world, material energy is also his energy, and Kala Shakti, right? Time factor, it is also one of his energy. Because it's Lord's energy, it is also eternal, it's not temporary. Unlike karma, Kala is not temporary. In fact, Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter 33rd verse, right? I am inexhaustible time, right? Krishna acts through the agency of time to control this world. Because of the Kala Shakti, everything in the material world undergoes the 6 phases of transformation, right? Namely, creation, growth, maturity, production of byproduct, decay, and finally, destruction. Thus, time is the greatest subduer or greatest gambler in this world. Ultimately, he takes everything, ultimately destroys everything. And Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all the people. In the 11th chapter, 32nd verse. After showing the Vishwarup, Arjuna becomes, very scared. Arjuna asks Krishna, Krishna, who are you? I thought you are my friend, you are my cousin, who are my relative. But after seeing your universal form, I am feeling very scared. I'm feeling very fearful. Who are you? Right? Then after revealing the universal form, Krishna says that I am the time factor. I am the universal form, right? In the form of universe, in the form of time factor, I come and destroy everything, right? The living entity performs activities in this world, Prakriti, with the sanction of the Lord under the control of time, right? The time controls everything in the term of past, present, and future. Time moves unidirectionally, right, in the material world and creates divisions of past, present, and future. Time cannot be rolled back, right? There's no way to go back in time. And people somehow think that we can create some kind of a time machine and go back in the past, right? No, time machine, according to Vedic knowledge, is unidirectional, right? It goes in one direction only, right? It actually moves forward only. The time machine manifests also through various divisions in the cycle of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the universe, right? Again, the time factor, right, is the one which causes the creation, sustenance, and destruction. Since time is energy of the Lord, it must be used only in the Lord's service, right? If something belongs to somebody, if something belongs to somebody, that thinks if you take it away from the other person, then we are misusing it. Those things has to be utilized in the service of the other person or given to the other person. Because time factor is energy of the Lord, hence time should be used only in the service of the Lord, right? It should not be wasted. In other words, we should never waste time. Rather, we should try to spend as much possible to serve the Lord. So divisions of time, right? Vedas describes the different divisions of time, right? The micro level within the atom, as well as to the macro level, to the entire material creation. In the micro level, the time factor, the lowest form of time, the lowest duration of time is defined as Thruti, right? The micro time scales, one Thruti is 8 by 13,500th of a second is called Thruti. That is the smallest amount of time described. And then next bigger unit of time is defined as Veda. One Veda means 8 by 135th of a second is one Veda. One Lava is 8 by 44th second. One Nimesha is 8 by 15 second. And then one Shana is 8 by 5 second, or approximately 1.6 seconds is one Shana. And one Kashta is 8 seconds. One Lagu is 2 minutes. One Danda is 13 minutes. One Prahara is 3 hours. One day is 12 hours. One night time is another 12 hours. And one Paksha, right? One day and night constitutes one complete day. And then one Paksha constitutes of 15 days. And then 2 Paksha constitute of 1 month. And 12 months constitute of 1 year. And 1 year is the full orbit of the sun. And a human being is expected to live up to 100 years in this Kali Yuga, right? This is the micro level time scale defined in the Vedic literature, especially Srimad Bhagavatam gives such an elaboration of these time factors, right? Right? In the macro level, right, the time factors manifest as the 4 yugas, right? The Kali Yuga, which is the present age, lasts for 432,000 years or 4,32,000 years. In Kali Yuga, currently only approximately 5,100 years only had gone, right? Remaining 427,000 years, 4,27,000 years of Kali Yuga is left. The Dwapara Yuga is 2 times the Kali Yuga, right? 864,000 years or 8,64,000 years is one Kali Yuga, one Dwapara Yuga. That is 2 times the Kali Yuga. And one Treta Yuga is 3 times the Kali Yuga. That is like 12,60,000 years. 1.62 million years is one Treta Yuga. And one Satya Yuga is the 4 times the Kali Yuga. That is, right, 17,28,000 years. That is 1.728 million years is one Satya Yuga. When you combine this one Kali Yuga plus one Dwapara Yuga plus one Treta Yuga, one Satya Yuga, calls one Chatur Yuga. Sorry, there is a spelling mistake. It is Chatur Yuga. Chatur Yuga means the 4 yugas constitutes the Chatur Yuga or Divya Yuga, right? When you add all of them, it comes to 4.32 million years or 43,20,000 years. That is 10 times of the Kala Yuga is the duration of one Divya Yuga or Chatur Yuga, right? Again, this Chatur Yuga, one lifetime of Brahma, right? The macro level, again, in terms of universe, if you want to understand from the lifespan of Brahma, right? One day of Brahma, one daytime of Brahma consists this 1,000 Chatur Yugas or Divya Yugas, that is 4.32 million years. One night time of Brahma constitutes another 1,000 Chatur Yugas or Divya Yugas, that is another 4.32 million years. So one day of Brahma is one day plus one night constitutes 124 hours or one complete day of Brahma, one full day of Brahma, right? That is 8.64 million years. Sorry, 8.64 billion years. One daytime of Brahma is 4.32 billion and one night time of Brahma is 4.32 billion. One daytime of Brahma is 8.64 billion years, right? One night plus one day, that is 2,000 Chatur Yuga is one day of one complete day of Brahma. And Brahma's 1 year is 360 days, right? Brahma's 1 month consists of 12, Brahma's 1 month consists of 30 days, and then 1 year consists of 12 months. Hence, 1 year of Brahma is 360 days. So that is 8.64 billion years into 360. That many human years is 1 year of Brahma. And one lifetime of Brahma is 100 years of Brahma, right? That 100 years of Brahma is 8.64 billion times 360 into 100. That comes to 311 trillion 40 billion years, right? 311,040 and then followed by 9 zeros, right? That many human years is the lifetime of Brahma. Brahma lives for his 100 years, right? And the duration of the universe is the lifetime of Brahma. Our universe exists for the duration of Brahma. That is the lifespan of Brahma. That is 100 years of Brahma. That is equal to 311 trillion 40 billion human years is the lifespan of the universe. And that lifespan of the universe or one lifetime of Brahma is one breath of Mahavishnu. When he exhales, that during the period of exhaling, the entire creation, millions and millions of universe comes into existence. They exist for this one breath time of Mahavishnu, that is one lifespan of Brahma, that is 100 years of Brahma, that is equivalent to 311 trillion 40 billion years. This is the greater cosmic cycle, the 4 yugas and then Divya yugas and then one kalpa, that is Chatur Yuga, 1,000 Chatur yugas, one kalpa, one day of Brahma, right? And then 1,000 years of 100 years of Brahma is the span of the universe, which is equivalent to one breath time, one exhaling time of Mahavishnu. And when Mahavishnu inhales, everything goes into unmanifested state, goes back into his body. And then again, when he exhales, everything comes into existence and everything manifests, right? This cycle of creation, sustenance, and annihilation is going on eternally, right? With the help of time factor. Now, this ends the Prakriti and Kala time factor, right? The past few weeks, we have been trying to understand the problem. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam. On top of it, birth, death, old age, and disease, right? One should be solving the real problem of birth, death, old age, and disease instead of temporary problems of eating, mating, sleeping, and depending, right? And then we saw that does God really exist? God is the supreme controller, supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor of everything, and he is also known as Bhagavan, right? one who possesses complete all opulences in full, all wealth, all beauty, all strength, all knowledge, all fame, and all renunciation. He can be called as Bhagavan or God. And then we saw God by definition is only one. And then Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declares how he is the source of everything. According to Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature, we can see that Krishna fits the definition of God. And then Krishna establishes himself, right? Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanevam buddha bhava samanvitaha. He is the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. The wise person who knows this worships Krishna with all his heart. We saw that one God is Krishna. And then we saw that we are all living entities, eternal spiritual living entities, belong to spiritual world. We come into this material world. We are covered by these two types of material body, right? That is like the gross body and subtle body, Suchum Sharira and Sthula Sharira, right? Above that is the spiritual body, that's the soul. We are not these bodies, we are all spirit souls. Spirit soul belongs to spiritual world. But unfortunately, we came into this material world. This material world is called Prakriti. The Prakriti is controlled by the three modes. The Prakriti manifests into many, many universes. They're all controlled by, they're all coming from Karnadaksai Vishnu and Garbhadaksai Vishnu and Shirodaksai Vishnu. They are all in charge of maintaining this universe. And then we saw that the secondary creation is done by Lord Brahma within the universe. And then the destruction, annihilation is done by Lord Shiva, the chief among the Rudras. There are 11 Rudras, the chief among them is Lord Shiva. And then we saw the purpose of this material creation, why this material world exists with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, the place of misery and temporariness. Why this exists? Because this place is like a prison house, a prison without wall. It is a jail without wall. Any prisoner comes into the prison, first thing is given is uniform. Similarly, when a living entity comes into this material world, right, we have been given this material body as a uniform. There are 84 lakh species of bodies available as uniforms. According to our consciousness, different bodies are provided, right? The actions determines our future, choices. That is called karma, laws of karma. Every action has a consequent reaction. If you do a good action, there is a good reaction. If you do a bad action, there is a bad reaction. Beyond this papa and punya, good and bad, beyond karma and vikarma, there is something called akarma, right? Akarma is the activity, spiritual activity. When we perform, both our punya and papa get destroyed. That will solve us, that will release us from the cycle of birth and death. We can go back to spiritual world, right? And then we also saw that time factor manifests as past, present, and future. Time factor is also one of the energy of the Lord. Time factor is the one which makes everything animate in this material world. And because of time factor, everything is animating, everything is moving. Otherwise, everything is simply dull and inert. This time factor, right, is one of the energies of the Lord. This in the micro level, it manifests as like, starting from, right, different scales of time is defined in Vedic literature. And then macro level, it manifests as the cycle of the universe, the 4 yugas, Kali Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Satya Yuga. These 4 yugas constitutes one Chatur Yuga or Divya Yuga. Similarly, 1000 Chatur Yugas or Divya Yugas constitutes one daytime of Brahma. And then another 1000 Chatur Yugas constitutes this night time of Brahma. Similarly, one full day of Brahma is 2000 Chatur Yugas. That is like, 8.64 billion into 1000 times 2. That is 8.64 billion human years is one daytime of Brahma. And then Brahma lives for 100 years of his time. And then 100 years of lifetime of Brahma is one span, one life of the universe. It's the span of the universe. That is one, breath time of Mahavishnu, right? So we also saw that living entity belongs to spiritual world. We are all part and parcel of God. We saw that the intrinsic nature of the soul is to serve, right? The soul is the eternal thing. The duty of the soul is called Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means to serve the Lord with love and devotion. Love and devotion means the choice of not living exists. We are all existing in the spiritual world with love and devotion to serve God. Some of us exercise the independence, in the free will, to exercise the independence, to enjoy independent of God. Once because of that we came into this material world. This material world is also prison house. It is a correction place. Correction place means, right, there are two things, punishment and pain. Pain comes in the form of birth, death, old age, and disease. Punishment comes in the form of, right, Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhaudika Klesha, and Adi Devika Klesha. The purpose of whole of human life is to rise above the struggle for eating, mating, sleeping, defending, ask the higher question, release ourselves from the cycle of birth and death, go back to spiritual world, and attain eternal happiness, at our eternal home with God. So now this constitutes this past 8 sessions. We defined actually the problem. What the problem is? The real problem is that we all have material body. Why we got the material body? Because we, as of the exercise of the free will, we wanted to enjoy independent of God. The crime we committed is we want to enjoy independent of God. Because of that, we came into this material world, and then we are going through this 8.4 million species of life, 84 lakh species of life, right? They are like uniforms in this jailhouse. So one has to come out of this material world. How to come out of the material world? Krishna says, right? We saw that clue Krishna gives. Daivihi Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratyaya, Mam Yevaye Prapatyante, Maya Medam Tarante. This divine energy of mind, this material energy, the 3 modes of energy, is very difficult to overcome. They are always binding us. It's insurmountable. But one can easily cross beyond it if they surrender to me. Now, next week, we are going to see the solution. The problem is birth, death, old age, and disease existing in the material world. Hateness or envy towards God is the one which got us into this material world. Now, the solution to the material problem, how to come out of this material world, cycle of birth and death, that we are going to see according to Bhagavad Gita, the yoga system Krishna describes, the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, the yoga ladder. Right, all those things we are going to see next week. In the next week session, we'll see the solution according to Bhagavad Gita, how to solve the problem of birth, death, old age, and disease, how to come out of the cycle of birth and death, how to attain liberation, how to go back to spiritual world, attain the lotus feet of God, Vaikuntha. That we will see next week. The yoga system. And then week after next, we will see the practical application. So 2 more sessions, which will complete our introduction to Bhagavad Gita, or background material of Bhagavad Gita, the overview of Bhagavad Gita. Then after that, we are going to start the verse by verse study of Bhagavad Gita, chapter by chapter, verse by verse study of Bhagavad Gita. First, we will see the thematic flow of all the 18 chapters. Then we'll go to first chapter, and then we see the first chapter again is divided into many sections, and each section contains many verses, and then connection between the verses, connection between the sections, connection between the chapters, all of them systematically we will study. So this is the journey we are all embarked in the systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. Again, thank you very much for taking the time and coming and attending every week these sessions. These sessions, if somebody invests time, right, the most valuable commodity in this world is time factor. As you saw, time is unidirectional. Even one moment lost, we cannot get it back. So we are all taking the time every week, at least 90 minutes you are all spending, try to understand this message of Bhagavad Gita. I can guarantee you the return on investment you will get is manifold. It will bring a transformation in your life by understanding the message of Bhagavad Gita. We will all see the broader perspective, how this world is functioning, how the 3 modes are making everything work, how we get succumbed to the vices in this world, how one should overcome, how to overcome this negative energy, how to remain positive, how to go back to spiritual world, how to develop love for God, how to see everybody with an equal vision. All of them we are going to see in the solution given in Bhagavad Gita, in the systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue next week, the yoga system and the topmost yoga system. Any questions, comments at this point?
Yeah, you have posted the slides for the first 4 sessions. After that, they haven't been posted. So it,
Oh, I'm sorry. So I thought I posted it. Maybe it's not. Maybe
Yeah.
I will just upload tonight. You know,
okay.
up to this
Thank you.
8 sessions, all the slides, right? I will upload the PDF in the
Thank you.
Google.
Thank you. There are 4 already. So thank you very
Oh,
much.
okay. Only 4 is there. Okay, maybe last
Yeah.
week and this week's slides needs to be added. I forgot to add.
The
So.
recordings are there, but the slides are not there.
Okay, yeah. The recordings are there in YouTube, but the slides I will add it up. I'll add it up today itself. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Yeah. Any other questions? What we covered? Does it make sense, the systematic approach to Bhagavad Gita and why we came into this world, why we are existing in this world?
Yes, this is very helpful, very good. And we appreciate.
Yes, this background, this overview will keep us in perspective when we study the Bhagavad Gita. Every verse will make total sense. We keep the bigger picture in our mind when we study Bhagavad Gita, verse by verse and chapter by chapter.
I think it gets even better as we go further.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I am seeing, one thing I'm seeing is, our attendance is little low because a lot of people are there in the WhatsApp group. And I'm not sure why, people are not able to join. I prefer people joining in the live sessions and interact and participate and ask questions as well. That will bring out, more insights. It will benefit everybody. But if you are not able to join some weeks, you can always see the recordings, and then the slides as well. But I highly recommend, you can inform the friends who are already there in the WhatsApp group. We can, encourage them to join, because by investing the time, the return on investment, the perspective will bring us to understand everything in this world will be immense. It brought a transformation of life for me. When I studied Bhagavad Gita from 2004, I started studying Bhagavad Gita systematically. So I studied under teacher. I did a diploma in Bhagavad Gita for 4 years. So that brought this, broad perspective.
Where did you study?
So I studied when I was living in Seattle, right? I studied under a teacher. Once a year, he used to come and stay for 1 month from Dallas. Houston used to come to Seattle. Around 15 of us studied Bhagavad Gita systematically. And what we are going to do, that's the same course. I'm teaching instead of like kind of condensed format every day, 2 hours, and the weekends like 8 hours, 1 month for 1 year, and then remaining 11 months we will do exercises and remotely studying. And then again next year, like that, we studied the 6 chapters like that. 3 years we studied, and the 4th year we get the final exam. The same thing we are going to study week by week. So by the way, when we complete this 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita systematically, you will all get a diploma when you take the exams.
This is after the exam, right?
Yes. You will get a completion certificate, right, when you complete the course. But when you take the exams as well, right, you will get this Bhakti Gita diploma. And then after that, we are going to introduce some more Vedic scriptures, some more Upanishads, and then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and other scriptures. So when you complete those books as well, then you get a degree, Bhakti Shastri degree. So this will be associated with, ISKCON's educational wing, Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapid, which is in Bombay, which is part of, which is affiliated with the University of Mumbai, right? When we attend regularly and then when we take all the tests and everything, finally we'll get a diploma awarded by Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapid, which is recognized, which is affiliated to Mumbai University.
So does that give license to teach whatever?
Absolutely. When you study, when you complete the course, then that qualifies you to become a teacher. Even before you complete whatever you learned, you can always teach according to your capacity, you know.
Right.
But of course, when you complete this diploma, right? And then we saw that the qualification of a teacher, right? Bona fide teacher, we saw the qualification, who knows the conclusion of the scripture, who knows the essence of Bhagavad Gita. He also acts according to the message of Bhagavad Gita. And you develop all these qualities, automatically you will be a teacher, you know. Automatically, even you may not speak anything, by your behavior, you will be a teacher for the whole world. The world, what it needs is, right, example. When we live our life with those examples, what is given in the Vedas, what is given in Bhagavad Gita, we will become an inspiration for the whole world. Automatically, right, the change in the society can come through only the individuals. And everything has to start small. As I said, like absolutely you will be qualified to teach when you complete these 18 chapters, when you get a diploma. And we highly recommend all of you to start teaching as well. And I completed my diploma in 2010. From 2010 onwards, I have been teaching this diploma. Actually, I teach this diploma in two parts. The first part is the introduction. For the past 8 sessions, what we have been doing is the first part of the diploma, or the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. People who complete this introduction, who gets the overview of Bhagavad Gita, they get excited to study the Bhagavad Gita, and then they join the verse by verse, chapter by chapter study of Bhagavad Gita.
So when you start the sessions verse by verse,
Yes.
to keep a Gita next to us when we join the sessions?
Absolutely. We have the online edition. I highly recommend all of you to get a print edition of Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, we got one. Okay,
yeah, Bhagavad Gita as it is, or Bhagavad Gita,
right?
Yatha Roop. But it is printed by, you know, ISKCON. So it gives a very scholarly presentation. It will give you the Devanagari Sanskrit sloka, and then it give a transliteration. People who cannot read Devanagari, still they can pronounce the Sanskrit sloka with the help of English. And then there will be a word by word meaning. And then there will be a translation. And then there will be a commentary. When we go through the verse by verse, chapter by study of Bhagavad Gita, we are going to go through the translation, and we are going to recite the sloka, and then we will go through the translation, and then we will go through the commentary, and then connection between the verses, the flow, and all of that. So we use the Bhagavad Gita book, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Along with it, I am going to use a guidebook called Gita Subodhini. I will send the link. One can buy in Amazon. So that Gita Subodhini is the study guide for Bhagavad Gita as it is. As I said, Bhagavad Gita has the 700 slokas in 18 chapters. The Gita Subodhini divides these chapters into different sections, and then different sections, the connection between the verses, connection between the sections, connection between the chapters, they're all given in a flow in this book, guidebook, with the flow charts and tables and everything. You don't have to have it, but if you have it, it will be very beneficial. These two books will be of great importance to understand systematically Bhagavad Gita. The introduction I have been taking for past 8 weeks, it's coming from a book called Basics of Bhagavad Gita. That is out of print right now. That is also published by Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Right now it is out of print. But that's the one. I had created the slides based on this book only.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Swamiji,
Yes.
I am Parthasarathy from Chennai.
Yes, sir.
Today only I joined through my daughter Janak
Yes,
Lakshmi,
yes.
Seattle.
My friend from Seattle, he gave the Janani, your daughter Janani, right?
Yes.
Yes. So your Janani, your daughter attended one of our classes in Seattle. One of my students were teaching in Seattle. So he reached out to me and see whether I am teaching anything in India. So
Can
then
you speak? Can you speak in Tamil?
Yes, I can speak in Tamil. So after our session is over, maybe tomorrow I will call you personally. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You send me a message, sir, to me in WhatsApp.
But, okay,
In my phone, right? In the WhatsApp phone, you can send a message.
okay. It's not possible to speak now. Afterwards, 7 o'clock.
Right now, after this at 7:30, I have another, engagement.
Okay, sir. Okay,
I'll call you
Guruji.
tomorrow. I'm available for you. Any amount of time I can give it to you. We can spend more time tomorrow on the phone as well.
Okay, Guruji. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, definitely we can. This is applicable to all of you as well. If you want a
Okay.
personal time of me, if you want guidance in, some directions in some
It
areas.
was personal timing means at what time shall I call you tomorrow?
So you can call me tomorrow, maybe same time, around 6 o'clock in the evening.
After 5
After 5, you can call me.
evening.
Evening, yeah.
Achha, okay.
So
Thank
I
you,
am
Guruji.
telling you to all of you as well that I am always available for any personal guidance or in any way to, look at any aspect of the scripture.
I am suffering from stomach. At present, I have been admitted to hospital in Gujarat.
Okay, sir. I'm very sorry to hear that. I just pray to Krishna that you recover well and then you can continue the journey of Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you very much.
And are you based in Seattle?
I was
No,
in
no, I am
Seattle for 20 years. I lived in Seattle from 1998 till 2018. I was there.
So where are you
I
based?
moved back to India. I am right now situated in Bangalore. My
Bangalore.
wife and children moved to India in 2017. And then I was there like back and forth for a year and then moved back to India in 2018.
Bangalore.
Currently staying in Bangalore, but I shuttle between Bangalore and Salem, which is my native place where my parents are. And then I also spend some
Salem.
time in Bombay. I'm also part of associated with the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeeth, the university in Bombay as well. But my place of residence right now is in Bangalore. And who is this? Who asked this question?
This is Prashant. So
Prashant, where are you from?
we are currently in Dallas, but we stay.
Dallas. Oh, okay, you're connecting to Dallas. Wonderful.
Bombay and Dallas is where we stay. Bombay we stay about 3/4 of the year and
Okay.
half a year, and then
Wonderful.
rest of the time we are in Dallas.
Wonderful. Yeah, Dallas also there is a very nice temple is there. ISKCON Kalachand, Radha Kalachandji.
Okay.
So right now, because of all the COVID, you may not be able to travel, but
Right.
other times, when the COVID subsides, we are praying that, the whole world can come out of the grip of this COVID and continue in their, journeys.
Right. No, we'll do
Thank
that.
you very much
Thank you.
for taking the time and
Thank
joining.
you, Rasji. Thank you very much for the session.
Who is this? Mataji?
This is Katyayani.
Namaste, Katyayani.
Namaste.
So you can also inform the friends, who have been part of the WhatsApp group, but who are not coming to the classes. Encourage them to come. When they participate, once they start get connected, I can assure you, you will not be able to stop it because this is the journey of self-discovery. Exciting journey of self-discovery. We'll be amazed the amount of knowledge Bhagavad Gita gives. In succinct way, in the format, the 700 slokas, Krishna gives the entire gamut of Vedic knowledge, Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then we will continue next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.